Peace and blessings. My name is Sister Angelica X. We are out here serving our community, making our community a decent and safe place to live. Nurture from A to Z, knowing that healing isn't a destination. We gotta remember that.
Most every disease can be eliminated through herbs, plant-based eating, internal cleansing.
Okay. I am healing.
I am healing.
I am whole.
I am whole.
I am powerful.
I am powerful.
I am divine.
I am divine.
I restore.
I restore.
I rise.
I rise.
I thrive.
I thrive.
All right. I love it. And I'll leave you all as I came. Peace and blessings.
Assalamu alaikum, family. Peace, healing, and light, and welcome back to another episode of Healing with Angelica's podcast, where we discuss all things healing. And if you are new to the show, welcome, 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 beautiful souls. So, of course, before we get started, please be sure to share, like, follow, and subscribe so you won't miss out on any of our upcoming episodes on any of your favorite podcast station, and Healing with Angelica on Facebook and YouTube to help spread the light of healing to others in need. I am also on Closing the Gap broadcast and Knowledge for Life. So if you are watching from those platforms, be sure to come to Healing with Angelica and subscribe as well. Also, if you are ready to move from awareness into action, now is the time. We offer one-on-one lifestyle wellness coaching through Healing with Angelica. So book a session today by texting the word HWA to 614-585-6040. More information will be in the description and at the bottom of your screen. So on today's episode, we have an amazing brother joining us today. We have Brother Demetric Muhammad. Finally, welcome. How are you? Thank you for joining us.
Sister Angelica, I'm so honored and so very grateful for the privilege and the opportunity to be on with you. And I'm just so looking forward to being able to discuss this important topic with you and your listening audience. And so I'm a great admirer of your work, and we definitely are honored to be here with you tonight.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you so much. You guys, I've been trying to get my brother on a show for forever, so this had to happen. So praise be to Allah. And let me see here. Of course, from our viewing audience who may not know who my brother is, which I know most of my audience do. But since he is my guest for the first time here on the show, for those who may not know him, I will give a brief bio. So Brother Demetric Muhammad is a student minister in the Nation of Islam under the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and a member of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan research team. He's a published author of 15 books and has traveled to over 50 cities, delivering lectures in schools, prisons, and media platforms. He has spoken at major events like Savior's Day, gained recognition for his writing in The Final Call, and authored works defending the Nation of Islam, including a book addressing the assassination of Malcolm X. He's been active in the nation since age 15 and continues to teach, lecture, and serve in prison ministry nationwide. Praise be to Allah. Now let's get started on today's episode, The Fight for Life in a World of Death. And please, for my audience today, do not hesitate to put any questions you may have for our guests in the comment section below. Inshallah, we'll strive to get to all of the questions. Keyword strive. So on today's episode, The Fight for Life in a World of Death, we're joined by our Brother Demetric Muhammad, as we take a deeper look into the spiritual battle happening all around us and within. This conversation is a call to wake up, to think, and to choose life in a world that constantly pulls us in the opposite direction. If you've been seeking clarity, purpose, and alignment with Allah God, this episode is just for you. let's get into it. So praise be to Allah, Brother Demetric. Again, before we got on the show, I told you I kind of got this topic based off a lecture that you did a year ago that really stood out to me, and just wanted to elaborate a little bit more on it. So to start it off, I just want to ask, what does it truly mean to fight for life in a world that seems designed around death?
I would say that that idea stems from the reality that many of us have become awakened to, that involves a consciousness and awareness that no longer can we take life for granted. No longer can we just coast and just live and be free to exist without an awareness and a consciousness of the threats and the dangers to life that are in our environment. I'm reminded of the scripture when it talks about how the believers should seek refuge against the overspreading of evil. So, day in and day out, we see, and our awareness is increasing, that we are living in a society where it is becoming increasingly difficult just to maintain the life that Allah, God, has given to us. So we have to be vigilant regarding what we eat. We have to be vigilant regarding what we drink. We have to be vigilant regarding what we think. We have to be vigilant regarding what we say. We have to be vigilant regarding where we go. We have to be vigilant regarding the things that we even abstain from. Because in Satan's world, he will steer you in the direction of evil, and he will steer you into a posture of abstaining from those things which are actually good for us. So we wanted to send a message to our audience that in the day and the time in which we live, again, scripture in the Bible, as the Bible closes in the book of Revelations, it refers to Satan being at the zenith or the height of his power. And it said that Satan, that old dragon, had deceived the entire world. So there are many portraits in scripture that describe a time, and I believe it's descriptive of the day and the time in which we live, where the peoples of the earth would be under such a bombardment with things in their environment put there by Satan that threaten life itself, that all who would have life would have to have that life as a result of their fighting to hold on to that life. And this involves, as we know, following divine guidance for life that we bear witness has been given to us by Allah through the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
I love it. I love it. You brought up the word awareness, and that is where a lot of us have to get to a point of awareness, waking up from being dead into consciousness, right? And it takes me to my next question. With all the deceptive things that are going on in the world, do you mind in particular pointing out, like, what are some of the everyday evils and influences we have to consciously guard ourselves from?
Well, let's look at life and its component parts or aspects. We live in a society that makes us to believe that life is only physical. But as we are learning, life involves the physical, the spiritual, as well as the mental. And so when you're talking about the maintenance and the preservation of life, which is what we are really talking about when we're talking about the fight for life. We're talking about maintaining the life that Allah, God, has given to us, and the preservation of it and the development of it. Well, we see that the enemy has placed poison food in the environment. America and the American people, I heard a health scientist one day referred to the food that the American people eat as the SAD diet.
Mm.
And he said that that was an acronym for the Standard American Diet. And the acronym that he was using was SAD. SAD is the opposite of happy, like death is the opposite of life. And so the foods that are given to the American people, many people have acknowledged are banned in other countries because of the damaging health effects to our very physical lives, our very physical existence. Most people consume foods that come from a bag, a box, or a can. And the human being was not designed to thrive from these processed foods that are the product of the industrialization period of time in America, when food became processed in manufacturing plants given to the American people to consume, when a generation prior, when you had an agrarian economy that predominated in America, that found most people eating only the foods that they grew or that other people grew locally. So poison food is a threat to our physical life. When you look at how social media and the internet is influencing the thinking of the people in America, we see the misuse of social media, because social media no doubt has a positive use and application, but we see the misuse of social media, the misuse of the information superhighway, the so-called World Wide Web. We see that to the degree that it is being misused, that it is a threat to mental life, for there are actual legal cases before the courts of America where young people have attributed a poor mental health condition to the images and the information that they have consumed in an addictive manner from the internet and social media. So they are threats to mental life. And of course, the true essence, the true power of man and woman is spiritual. And they are threats to our spiritual life. We see how the teacher of truth, the messengers of Allah God, that in the modern day and time are the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, their message is heavily censored in mainstream spaces, which keeps the American people at a disadvantage in terms of accessing the kind of spiritual wisdom that Allah has revealed to these two servants for, first, the Black man and woman of America, but in truth, it's for the benefit of all of the American people, regardless of race, class, creed, or color. So through censoring and the various prohibitions to the message of Minister Farrakhan and his teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we see this as a weakening of the spiritual vitality of a nation that is being barred from accessing the spiritual wisdom that Allah has revealed to these two majestic servants among us. And so that constitutes a threat to our spiritual life, because all the while the minister's message is being censored, other messages of falsehood are being allowed to proliferate unfettered, without any hindrance or obstacle. So everywhere you look, again, scripture, we see that we are living in a society that so closely resembles the Bible's description of a great end times nation state that scholars and writers have referred to as Mystery Babylon. There is an excellent book that the author ultimately took out of print because he faced so much criticism. His name was Ralph Woodrow, and he wrote a book called Babylon Mystery Religion. And in that very excellent book, he drew many relevant parallels to modern day American society, to the biblical nation state that is the center of the end times prophecies, Mystery Babylon. For in the book of Revelations in the Bible, it says that Mystery Babylon had become a habitation of devils, a hole for every unclean, foul, and hateful bird. And so this society that we live in is a society where we must, if we are to have life, we have to fight for life in this society of death.
Praise be to Allah. I love it. I love it. Wow, those everyday evils that we have to consciously guard ourselves, it makes me think about the importance of gaining discipline and why discipline is so important when trying to guard yourself from these things. And like you stated before, it's like we're bombarded with this, with these evils every day. So my next question is, how does discipline play a role in protecting our mind, body, and spirit in this kind of environment of evil?
Discipline is the path of true freedom. When I speak to youth groups, I have a diagram that I created that we place on the board. And if you could imagine the shape of a funnel, and then imagine the shape of a funnel turned upside down. A funnel has a wide mouth and a narrow neck, wherein when fluid is poured into a funnel, the fluid has a lot of room to move around, and then it's ultimately restricted by the very narrow neck on the funnel. We've all seen a funnel. If you have to do maintenance on your automobile, at a certain point, you got to put oil in it or change the oil, and you pour oil through the funnel. Well, if you turn the funnel upside down, then the narrow neck is at the top and the wide mouth is at the bottom. And I use this diagram to talk about the difficulty factor involved in living a disciplined life modeled after, the way of God as it has been written in the scripture. If you look at the funnel with the open mouth at the top and the narrow neck at the bottom, the way it's designed to be used, it represents the way of Satan. It represents an undisciplined life. It represents the false allure of sin and evil. And what I mean by that is this: if you look at that funnel, the fluid has a lot of room to move around in, and thus you could say the fluid is free flowing. But as the fluid travels down the depth of the funnel, it becomes restricted. So sin is like that. Sin in American society, living an undisciplined life in American society, doing whatever you want to do in American society, is falsely equated with freedom. And discipline has been misrepresented as the absence of freedom. But notice, if you turn the funnel upside down. You begin with the very narrow neck of the funnel at the top. And if fluid is carefully poured into the narrow neck, it begins being very, very restricted.
Mm-hmm.
It's not free flowing. It's almost like you put the fluid in a straitjacket. It can't move around too much. But the further it proceeds in that direction, it gets to the open mouth part of the funnel where it has a lot of freedom to move around.
Mm.
So my message to my young brothers and sisters is this: if you would adopt a disciplined lifestyle, you would ultimately have greater freedom as the fruit and the result of self-discipline in following the way of Allah, God. But if you begin exercising your freedom to choose in a way that disregards discipline, disregards principled living, disregards restraint, disregards a necessary self-imposed restriction to our moral conduct, if you forego that in the beginning, then your literal freedom will be taken from you either through prison, incarceration, or through that ultimate restriction to freedom, which is death itself. So discipline needs a marketing campaign, in my humble judgment, because too many, especially in the youth demographic, have been led to believe that freedom is the absence of discipline and restraint, when the wise know that the road to true freedom, as the most Honorable Elijah Muhammad writes famously in the Muslim program, he said, we want a full and complete freedom. Well, a full and a complete freedom is the result of discipline according to principles of truth.
Praise be to Allah. I love that so much. It makes me go into my next question. This question I actually thought about. I didn't even, because I always prepare for my shows. But when you talked about, and even though this show is for everyone, I really wanted to gear this show for the youth. Seeing the condition that they're in now and just seeing the havoc of what's going on in our society with the police shooting our young black men and not knowing the proper way to handle that. So knowing that you have been or you are in a prison ministry, like what would be, I would say, for our black men, how does learning and knowing the proper way to deal with the police in our community aids in the fight for life in a world of death?
It begins with lifestyle choices.
Okay.
In the Nation of Islam, we have been known to be very effective in engaging members of the black community who have become, as they say, justice involved. And our track record with our people who have been in jails or prisons is so stellar that at this point in many black households, it has become something of a cultural norm that if they have a young man or a young woman who has been convicted of a crime and been sentenced to serve a prison sentence, many mothers and fathers will say, well, son, well, daughter, you have got your sentence and you know the time that you have to do. While you're inside, you need to join or get with the Muslims. They will look out for you. But the beginning of our work of reform among our people begins in the mosque, in the temple, in the study group, where the knowledge of God and the knowledge of self is imparted to all who would open themselves to receive it. And once you receive the knowledge of God and the knowledge of self, and you accept the truth that we are the original man. You know, Sister Angelica, when we joined the mosque, we were given a lesson entitled The Student Enrollment. And question number 1 of the student enrollment reads, who is the original man? The answer is the original man is the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, God of the universe. And once upon a time in that lesson, it also included this verbiage, father of civilization. Well, once you and I understand who we really are from the beginning, from the origin, not from the history of slavery in America, for we go way back before this current history of the black man and woman in America. Once you understand that you are the original people and that civilization comes from us and that you can't have civilization without law and order. You can't have civilization without systems of justice. Then you and I, once we understand from whence we have come, we develop a respect for law and order. We develop a respect for the principle of justice. How could we not when we have been the victim of so much injustice? And as we learn more of self, we begin to bring the affairs of our life into perfect alignment with the perfectness of the truth of self that we are learning. This empowers us to make the kind of lifestyle choices that are preventative of many of the kinds of circumstances and occasions that would put us into the hands of our enemies, who hide many times among law enforcement apparatuses. So as Mama and them used to say, Daddy and them used to say, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan have taught us not to use narcotics, not to partake of intoxicants, or to be involved in games of chance. Of not sneaking around with our brother's wife or children. We are taught against the abuse of women. So, resident within the life-giving teachings of the most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as taught by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, is a wisdom that our community desperately needs. And no, you don't have to join, quote unquote, the Nation of Islam to receive it. But if you and I would begin to think honestly about what the most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan are teaching, as well as their history and track record of producing a community that does not suffer to the degree that the larger community suffers from many of the social ills that the larger community suffers from, if we would have an honest and frank assessment of the beneficial value of the life-giving teachings of the most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan, we could eliminate 90% of our interactions with law enforcement officials, because last time I checked, there was not a whole lot of laws against righteous conduct. Now, this is America, things are bound to change. But when you and I begin to come into that discipline that you just referenced and extol the virtues of, we are able to make the kinds of choices with our life that cause us to not be in the traps that have been laid for us by our enemies.
Praise be to Allah. OMG, you guys. Brother Demetric, I don't know if you see me on. I did have technical difficulties, but it sounded like you kept it going. By the grace of Allah. So praise be to Allah. Thank you for that. We're going to take a small little break here. And I just want to say thank you all for joining us. Please, please, please be sure again to share, like, follow, and subscribe. Okay. And if you all are enjoying this episode just as well as I am, please show your support today by texting the word donate to 614-585-6040 or check out the donation info on the screen below. All donations will be towards the continuation of Healing with Angelica's podcast, in which we are now 4 years in. I love you all. Now let's get back to today's episode, The Fight for Life in a World of Death with Brother Demetric Muhammad. And again, if you guys have any questions, please put your questions in the comment section below. So, praise be to Allah. I'm pretty sure that you gave the audience a whole bunch of juice when it came to that, to where I guess the enemy wanted to interfere, because unfortunately I didn't get a chance to hear it because of technical difficulties. However, we're going to keep it moving. So, to follow up with that, let me see here. Now, you talked about purity in your lecture in the Fight for Life, and how remaining pure, which um, simultaneously came with the reason to be disciplined. How do we remain pure and grounded when we're constantly surrounded by negativity and temptation?
I believe that we were seeking to provide some exegesis of the Holy Quran relative to those passages of scripture within the Holy Quran that describe Satan as an open enemy to man. And Allah, God, says in those passages to Satan, because Satan, he said to Allah in words, and because you have caused me to remain disappointed, I now will come after this man that you have made from black mud and fashioned into shape. I'm going to be an enemy to him, and I'm going to come after him from his left side, from his right side, from before him, and from behind him, and you won't find none grateful. And Allah said, Satan, you will get all except my purified ones. And so we focused on Allah's response to Satan, and we began to talk about purification and how purification involves a process that will take something that has contaminants in it and then remove those contaminants so that it returns to its original state of being. So if you look at what Allah revealed to the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, that we are learning from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan today, is very fascinating, because Master Farrakhan Muhammad he left the very religiously strict environment of Mecca, Arabia, and he came to Detroit and he found Black people who, many of whom landed in Detroit after having fled the Deep South as a part of what historians like Isabel Wilkerson and others describe as the Great Migration. In 1877, the year Master Fard Muhammad was born, this was the same year of what has been dubbed the Great Betrayal of the Negro people, that which is called the Compromise of 1877. It ended Reconstruction, which commenced at the conclusion of the Civil War. And for a period of maybe 12 years, our forefathers and foremothers left plantations, and we didn't want to integrate back with our slave masters and their children. We took our skills, we took our knowledge and wisdom, because plantations were operated and ran by the slaves. So we were on plantations, very, very, very knowledgeable. And we took those skills and we established, depending upon which account you read, some say 60, some say 80, some say over 120 independent Black townships. This was greatly facilitated by the presence of federal troops in the South that were stationed to guard and protect these newly established settlements that were being established by our forefathers and foremothers who had been freed from slavery. Well, after the end of Reconstruction, this gave rise to the Ku Klux Klan and the open terrorizing of Black people throughout the Deep South. So many of our people left the Deep South and they went to the North. Some went out West, some went to the East Coast. But when Master Fard Muhammad found us, he found us a broken people, a people who in our brokenness were great partakers of intoxicants and games of chance and many of the things that a young child growing up in Mecca, Arabia, would have viewed as haram or forbidden. Yet when he visited us, he never condemned us or judged us. For, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has said, he knew that he had with him the means by which he could purify us of that which contaminated our heart, our mind, our spirit, and even our bodies as a result of our sojourn during the proverbial Black Holocaust in America. So again, he taught us how to eat to live. He taught us that we should exercise and develop our bodies. He taught us about fasting. He taught us about the pursuit and the acquisition of knowledge. He gave to us wisdom to rear our children. And at every stage of what he gave to the most honorable Elijah Muhammad for the benefit of us as a people, we see that it produces a purifying effect. And so when we go among our people, I was today facilitating a program where we took some of our great sisters from the MGT to visit some of our sisters who are incarcerated. And when our sisters began to introduce themselves to the sisters and tell them their age, and the sisters was like, oh my God, I can't believe you're that old. You look like you're a teenager. Well, that is the result of our sisters submitting to the process of purification that Master Fard Muhammad commenced when he began to reveal to the most honorable Elijah Muhammad the great hidden truths that are necessary to effectuate the resurrection of us as a people. So purification is the result of a process that produces purification. And Allah intends to purify all of us. All we have to do is submit to him through hearkening unto the voice of God today, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Beautiful, beautiful. Praise be to Allah. And I do want to ask, because I'm hearing feedback on my end. Are you hearing any static? Because I'm hearing it. Brother Demetric, do you hear any
I can hear the feedback as well. It's making it very difficult to hear you, dear sister.
Okay. Okay. Do you still hear it now? Is it still going?
That's much better. That's much better. Stay right there.
OMG. Okay. This technical difficulties. Sheesh. Okay. Praise be to Allah. So we have we have a question here I want to propose, and then we're going to go ahead and close out. We have a question here from Brother Lawrence. He asks, what are some of the ways food plays a role in life or death in our community? And what is a few food choices that can directly affect our lives positively from the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad?
The most honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teach us of the great value of the Navy bean. I have been blessed to have dinner with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on many occasions. And whenever we have dinner with our beloved minister, dinner always begins with Navy bean soup. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad writes about the beneficial value of the Navy bean and his very important and indispensable 2-volume work entitled How to Eat to Live from God in Person, Master Fard Muhammad. And what's powerful about him teaching us to eat the Navy bean, first, it's scriptural. If you go into the Bible, and many of our Christian family these days, when I engage with them, they are proud to tell me that they are involved in what has been dubbed the Daniel fast. And I always encourage them to do so. But I would like to encourage them to go a step further, because when Daniel and the other Hebrews who were with him were in prison, they were offered what the Bible calls the king's meat and the king's drink. But Daniel and those with him said, we don't want the king's meat. We don't want the king's drink. Give to us pulse. Do you know that there is an organization called the American Pulse Society? It is an organization that preserves rare heirloom quality lines of beans, and they promote the consumption of beans as food. So Daniel was requesting beans instead of the king's meat and the king's drink. What kind of beans was Daniel requesting? Well, a key to understanding that is that the scripture says when those who held Daniel and the Hebrew children captive came to look upon them and observe their condition. Daniel and those with him had a beautiful countenance. They were sharper mentally, and they did not suffer from the ailments that the other ones who were in captivity suffered from. Well, we know then that it wasn't butter beans, it wasn't pinto beans, it wasn't black eyed peas, because in the modern day and time, eating those beans and those foods that we developed an appetite for during slavery, during the days of chattel slavery, when slave owners fed their slaves the same foods they fed their cattle and livestock and pigs and chickens. We who have had a slave diet, we now, according to most health statistics in the Black community, suffer more from hypertension, diabetes, obesity, rheumatism, arthritis, headaches, pains in joints, and we can hardly walk up to the store. So we wouldn't say that Daniel was requesting the same old beans that our people have consumed in the slave diet. But there's one bean that produces the effect that the scripture says Daniel and those with him had. It gives you a beautiful skin tone, a radiant glow, a healthy digestive system, and begins to help to turn back the hands of time. That's the navy bean that is promoted exclusively by the Nation of Islam. Many people always comment on Minister Farrakhan. You look so beautiful. You look so wonderful. When they ask me, man, how old is the minister? I said, well, brother, by the grace of Allah, he'll be 93 in just a few days. And they say, what? I can't believe it. He looks so good. I can't believe Farrakhan is 93. Well, every meal at the Farrakhan home begins with navy bean soup. And so if you want to talk about the food that we should be consuming regularly, it's the navy bean. If you want to talk about the foods that we should never consume, that's pork. And we should not consume its byproducts or derivatives. And now when I came into Islam, Sister Angelica, pork was the big culprit to watch out for. But, you know, Satan is a scientist of evil. And so today he has many other food products or food stuffs, as they are dubbed, that we have to be on the lookout for. You asked the question about the well-being of our brothers, our men folk. Well, do you know that it is hard to purchase any processed foods that don't have soybean oil or heavy amounts of soy? This is a great concern because soy is documented as raising estrogen levels in men. Estrogen is the feminine hormone. And so it raises the question, are the men in America being deliberately effeminized through chemicals put in foods? So when I came in, all you had to do was basically stay away from pork. But today there's so many other dangers in the food supply that our consciousness and awareness should cause us to steer clear of and abstain from. And I would just add, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan also teach us against nuts. I know many health conscious brothers and sisters, they feel that nuts are superfoods. But the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan said The nuts do such great damage to the digestive system that was never designed to digest nuts. He said that when you eat nuts, it takes away 5 years of your life. So I would say to all of those in the listening audience, you should avail yourself of that 2 volume set, How to Eat to Live from God in Person, Master Farad Muhammad, that was written by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And what's so amazing about those books, one aspect I should say, I think you could get those books for maybe $10 each. And as you know, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad centers his dietary guidance around the eating of one meal a day that has been called in nutrition circles a form of intermittent fasting or caloric restriction. And a few years ago, I was doing some research on this subject, and I saw that Harvard University was hosting a conference on caloric restriction diets where the registration fee was about $5,000. So Harvard was going to teach a facsimile of what God revealed to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad for $5,000. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gives it to you for just a little bit above the cost of printing of those books.
I love it. I love it. Praise be to Allah. That is our prescription, how to eat to live. And doesn't cost nothing, honestly, to get those books, right? And to aid us in this fight for life in a world of death. So, Brother Demetric, oh my God, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today for discussing this amazing topic, the fight for life in a world of death. I also want to thank my amazing audience in Healing Tribe for joining us today. I pray that this episode was, of course, informative, valuable, and number one thing, healing to you all. Also, just want to give a shout out to, of course, the amazing broadcast of Closing the Gap broadcast and also Knowledge for Life. Thank you all for your support. And I also want to go ahead and close out with Brother Demetric. Do you have any closing remarks before we end today's show?
I just want to express my gratitude and appreciation to you, dear Sister Angelica, for hosting us tonight. We are honored to be on with you and also to offer a word of encouragement to you to continue in your pursuit of sharing quality content to the believing community and the larger community of our people. We need more of this kind of content that it might grow and become the dominant kind of content out here in these social media streets. So we thank you and we appreciate you. And if there are any brothers and sisters, I don't know if you have the ability to post the link, but you could post the link to the lecture where we go into this subject in detail, and it may be of benefit to those who have tuned in to the broadcast tonight. But I would just encourage them to check out the lecture that's on our YouTube channel called Researching the Minister, and drop us a line and let us know what you think about that message, the fight for life in a world of death.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you so much, Brother Demetric. Like, I'm just grateful to Allah again, just to have this opportunity and to be able to share quality content, especially in the time that we're in right now, is so well needed. And I will definitely leave the link to his actual lecture on the fight for life in a world of death in the comment section below. Also, just be sure to just check out our brother on the researchministry.com. He has a lot of great information, great books to check out. So yeah, thank you so much, Brother Demetric. And we love you all, and we leave you all as we came. Assalamu alaikum. Peace, healing, and light.
Wa alaikum salam.
Peace and blessings. My name is Sister Angelica X. We are out here serving our community, making our community a decent and safe place to live. Nurture from A to Z, knowing that healing isn't a destination. We gotta remember that.
Most every disease can be eliminated through herbs, plant-based eating, internal cleansing.
Okay. I am healing. I am whole. I am powerful. I am divine.